Welcome back. As you can see, I have just been weaving. I've in fact woven quite a bit, as you can see by my built-up selvages, which are looking very lovely, if I do say so myself. And I've just advanced my weaving, and it's time to start going again. And the first one's a little hard once you get used to the tension. I am using my double bobbin shuttle from Handy Woman Shop, and I love it. There is a tactile joy in my tools when I have good tools. Every time I grip this, there's a very pleasant smoothness to the surface of this wood. And it just feels comfortable. It feels like it belongs in my hand. And you just can't beat, helps if I'm in the right shed, you can't beat having good tools. Now, there's a couple, I'm starting to develop some tension issues. Sorry about the back of my head there. Because I'm getting towards the end and the quirkiness of my pre-cut ends warp is starting to show. But again, it takes a little bit getting used to the new tension settings right after you advance, especially high tension with cotton, which is what I prefer. I do the pluck method, and it seems to work out best for me on cotton. I haven't been weaving with much other than cotton or acrylic. So I think I do it a little bit on acrylic, but I do it especially on cotton. It's what gives me these lovely selvages that I am so happy with. And anytime I've done it, I've had nicer selvages than if I don't. I use a bit of a shallow angle. Some people, when they weave, instead of plucking, they'll do the corner pinch, and then they'll have their yarn like at a really steep angle like that. I prefer a shallow angle, but plucking, and proceeding from there. All right, time to just enjoy the weaving. I realize I weave in a different way than most people. I genuinely disliked having a stand on my shacked 25-inch flip, and I don't enjoy sitting in most chairs. There's some physiological issues with that make it uncomfortable and give me a limited time that I'm able to do it without having to stop. But standing is not any better, and I have my whole life genuinely preferred sitting on the floor to certain chairs, and I vastly prefer sitting on my bed to chairs. And so I sit some modified version of combination of tailor style, butterfly style, whatever you want. My loom is literally on my legs. My feet are sort of to the side, as you can see a little bit, right? And my feet will lift or lower the loom sometimes when I need to look at something. They prevent it moving forward because my feet are up there or here, depending. And I've got right up in my lap ready to go, and I just weave. And it works for me. And it has the added benefit when I was just starting of occasionally, especially with a boat shuttle, it would dolphin dive down through my warp, and I would have to push the loom forward, get up out of the chair, stand up, walk around the loom, bend down, pick it up off the floor, put it back in front, sit back down, scooch the chair and the loom closer together, get comfortable again, and start doing it, only to do it again 3 picks later. My knees were not happy with me in this situation, and I really didn't enjoy it. And it was, I was worried about it scratching my floors, because I have hardwood floors in an 1880s construction house, and yeah, the floors are one of the nicer features. And original to the house. What's going on with you? Oh, normal bind up a little. Sometimes when you're unweaving or unwinding from the very ends of a boat shuttle bobbin, if your winding technique was not on point, it can need a little encouragement to let go. And so sometimes what I'll do is I'll pre-pull like that, or when I finish a pick, I'll extend the shuttle out to my wingspan, which means I've automatically got enough to do the next pick. And in the process of putting it down, I extend it to the other side, do my draw, and that way I don't have to do a stretchy thing twice, assuming it doesn't get caught on my cords. I just do it at both edges, and we're good. That time it had to be equalized a bit because it got caught on my phone charging cord. Sometimes to change up my motions, I'll do the stretchy bit on the pickup about to weave as opposed to the grabbing from the far end. Okay. It got caught again. Cord needs to go away. There we go. It is out of the way. Hopefully I'll figure out how to add music to my YouTube videos without getting in trouble with copyright or using the same music that everybody uses. But we shall see. But enjoy the weaving. There is a thread that is just a hint looser than its compatriots right about here. And it's not enough looser to add an S-hook on the back, but it's just enough that I have to be careful about not getting caught under the boat shuttle if it's caught by the point. I do prefer a lower point on a shuttle. I like it when there's a little bit of a ski tip, but there's also a bit of a downslope from the top, but that's not how these were made. So I love the materials enough that, and I don't dislike the shape enough for it to be an issue. But it does mean when I enter the shuttle into the shed, I have to put it at a slightly downward angle sometimes. And that's not always the easiest. to do at the far end of the warp. So I'm more likely to have an issue with catching the top of a thread over here than I am when I'm going this way, or over here when I'm going this way, than as I'm entering the shed. And up shed is always cleaner and easier. So I'm almost always having issues coming from left to right because my habit is to do down shed to the right, up shed to the left. But at this width, it's still quite manageable. And when you're dealing with 2 threads, nothing beats a double bobbin shuttle. So this was just under 3 yards for the reclaimed yarn strands. So I am hoping that with loom waste and knots and all of that, I'll end up with a little over 2 yards. I am considering options. I am looking at making a companion fabric with the remaining yarn of the reclaimed yarn, but instead of being all the way across, in fact, if you'll notice, right here, I'm in an up shed. Down shed. So if you look at the yarns going over the shuttle, they look really dark purple. There's a couple that are starting to turn maroon right here, but they're pretty dark purple. But if you look up at this end of my loom, I need to put this up in the back, which helps my tension issues. This is the same shed, but it's completely, magenta maroon, somewhere in between. So that's just one of the cool things about this yarn. And like here, it's starting the transition a little earlier than its mates, and that's fine. In fact, it's beautiful. But it's going to be this lovely, wonderful, irregular cloth that's going to show its merit in long panel. So I may just leave it as a shawl and not weave the second cloth, or weave the second cloth and let it be its own shawl. I might try to make this be the panel of a tabard dress, a la Sarah Howard's more recent videos. I love her work. I am utterly and totally a Sarah Howard groupie, and unashamedly so. I want to be Sarah Howard when I grow up, not that she's all that much older than me. But I love her tabard dress, but I am quite a bit larger than she is. So there's some adaptations that need to be made to her patterns. And I am really pleased that she's going size inclusive, but I also have some oddities to my body shape that make standard patterns problematic. So I might as well make my own pattern from scratch anyway, and just appreciate her advice. And so far that seems to be working for me. And I love how educational and informative her videos are. And they're just very useful. So anyway, I am using these mixed colored warps for the top, whole threads. And I'd used all of the reclaimed yarn for my slot threads, but I have enough to cover maybe a quarter to a third or so of the holes. I didn't count, I'm just estimating. So my thought, which I've explained in a previous video, was to randomly space it through the slots, but then fill in all the gaps in the slots with navy. This dark thread here. Almost black navy, not a very light, not a, navy can range from just a little bit darker than royal to almost indistinguishable from black until you put black next to it. This is definitely of the latter type. And I like it. And I think if I use the heavily navy version, I'll kind of get the dark shadow version of this fabric. It'll still be very purple. It'll still have all the pops of like the bright magenta and such. But if you'll note, you see how all of these are blending to each other? They're not the same purple. This is the lighter red. This is the darker blue, red, blue, blue, purple. Like a red purple and a blue purple. But they sort of just blend to each other very well. Especially when combined with a sort of even darker bluey purple weft. Which is the other thing. I am running low on weft. Or weft yarn. And I don't want to be able to weave, 2/3 of my project and run out of yarn. So I am quite possibly changing my weft yarn from this purple to maybe this purple. Because I don't really want to have to go and buy another tube of this. I'll check my stash to see if I have another tube of this, because if it's not turquoise, my favorite color would be purple. Hence, I have 1, 2, 3 different purples already in my stash, and that's not counting the bouclés. That's just the Maurice Broussard 8-2 cotton. And that's not even counting the magenta in the same family. But this is the fabric I'm getting, and I think it's going to be absolutely gorgeous when washed. I hope you have enjoyed it as well. I am getting close to the point where I'm going to need to advance. One of the things that starts happening is it's a little bit harder to pass the shuttle through the tunnel, because as the shed gets shorter, instead of having a triangle that's this tall but going to here, so this is only dropped a little bit, which means there's still room for the square profile of the shuttle. You've got a triangle that shortens down real fast. So instead of here, it's maybe to here, which means this is now at this angle, which is cutting into the corner. You have to deflect the top of this triangle to get that square shuttle through. And it's more resistance, and it feels narrower across the board, and you have to fiddle more with making sure you don't go under threads that you're supposed to go, or over threads you're supposed to go under. And it's a little frustrating. And I usually put up with it for a few picks to make sure it wasn't just a weird throwing of the pick. Also, there's less momentum when you push because, again, more drag because it takes more work. So the same force doesn't push as far, and you can't just push a downshed. You have to sort of baby it and make sure it's pointed downward because of the shape of this shuttle when you get close to the heddle. So in other cases, I would probably be weaving to about here, maybe here, before I advance. But now, with this project, I have to advance now. So let me do one more up shed because it's easier for me when the shuttle's on that side. Put it in the neutral position and turn it so you can see what's happening. Okay. So what's this stick about? Well, often you get a differential tension between the slot threads and the hole threads. And so you have a nice, neat shed. The up shed is usually very well behaved. And then a sort of sloppy shed, the down shed, because now all the hole threads are the ones that move. The slot threads just stay going front to back. So every time you do an up shed or down shed, you are stretching those hole threads, because the path that takes to go like this is longer than the path that takes to go like this. So they are constantly getting stretched and pulled on in a way that the weft thread, the slot threads are getting pulled on less. So they're under greater tension and they're elongated, which means if we tighten the warp, the slot threads are sort of sloppy and not seemingly under tension. What can easily, vastly improve your weaving experience is if you go into the down shed, and in down shed you thread a long shuttle, pickup stick, whatever, something that'll fit in your between your side rails, but still be as wide as your yarn, your project, and shove it as close to the back stick, the back roller as you can, and it just drastically improves the tension. And give me a second to roll up my paper. I've discovered these little hair clips are incredibly useful. Now, because of the wonkiness of and unneatness sort of, and predisposition to tangling of my reclaimed threads, I have to do a little bit of work to get this ready to go. It's easier if it's done under tension. There we go. Held by my knees. And then I just make sure the threads are not twisting against each other until I go over the back beam. That way I'll be able to push the stick to the back beam. And yeah, there's a little tangliness, and that's okay. It might mean I have a little bit more loom waste at the tail end of my weavings. That's normal. That's unfortunate in this case, because I'm going to be trying to eke out every inch I can get, but it is what it is. This is, going to be nearly 2.5 yards of cloth, maybe 2 yards of cloth that was ancient stash from, honestly, 22 plus years ago. And see, that's all the way towards the back. Makes for a much neater weave. And here we go again. My fell. Ready to do a down shed because my shuttle's on the left. Yep, those two are loose. And this one got looser. So it might be time for S-hooks soon. Because that's very loose now. But that's something I need to get up and get. So I will do that after these two picks. Boom. But yeah, this is not acceptable. So I will definitely need an S-hook for that. Ta-da! Alrighty, folks. Happy weaving. Be well. Please like, surprise. Surprising me with comments would be great. Subscribe and comment. I hope my ramblings have proved helpful to you. And Let's make pretty things. Have a lovely day, everyone. Be well. Happy weaving.